Nicaragua is a large, densely populated Central American country. It is one of the poorest countries in the world and the poorest nation in Central America. Nicaragua's turbulent existence starts in 1522 when Gil Gonzalez de Vila took it over for Spain. For 300 years, Spain ruled the land with an iron fist, enslaving the native peoples in the gold mines of the Andes Mountains. Nicaragua also has a history of American imperialism. It starts in 1904 with the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. It basically stated that the U.S. had the right to intervene with countries in the Western Hemisphere to stabilize it economically. Augusto Sandino was a freedom fighter who the Americans dismissed as a bandit, but used guerrilla warfare as a way to prevent the conquest of Nicaragua. In 1934, Augusto Sandino was murdered by the Somoza dynasty, and the Somozas were put in control of Nicaragua. Nicaragua under the Somoza dynasty was a very harsh place. Literacy was at 30%. People died from very treatable diseases like measles and the flu. The only people that were well off were Somozas and his associates. Communism came to Nicaragua in 1979. The Sandinistas, named for Augusto Sandino, led by Daniel Ortega, took over Nicaragua. The Sandinistas were so successful because of the hope and freedom that they promised and actually brought to Nicaragua. In October 1983, Nicaragua was invaded by the United States-backed Contras in an attempt to destroy the Sandinista regime. Guerrilla warfare was used a lot in the Sandinista-Contra War. The USSR and Cuba supplied the Sandinistas heavily with weapons, specifically .22 caliber rifles. A lot of the Sandinistas also made homemade weapons. The short-term effect the Sandinista revolution and war had on the people of Nicaragua was that the economy of Nicaragua was badly destroyed and the Sandinistas were taken from power. The long-term effect was that family ties were broken due to the mass exodus.
The short-term effects of the Sandinista revolution were that Cuba and the USSR allied with Nicaragua. Therefore, the U.S. put an embargo on Nicaragua. The long-term effects of the Sandinista revolution was that immigration from Nicaragua to America increased dramatically. Because of their association with communism, the U.S. never developed a good relationship with Nicaragua again.
By 1986, the Sandinista revolution was in disarray. But the Contras were also in trouble. With reports of their human rights violations mounting, the U.S. Congress banned the government from providing funds for the rebels, setting the stage for the biggest scandal of the Reagan administration, the Iran-Contra affair. Determined to continue their funding of the Contras, U.S. officials sold arms to Iran in exchange for the release of U.S. hostages and millions of dollars. This cash, in turn, was funneled to the 23,000-strong Contra army. Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, a member of the U.S. National Security Council, played a key role in establishing the covert network.
And I don't like the insinuation that I'm up here having a convenient memory lapse like perhaps some others have had.
I think that Oliver North was a true zealot. He was a true believer. He thought they were in an historic apocalyptic struggle against the communist world, and they had to fight to the death in Nicaragua. And these Democrats on Capitol Hill were all weak-kneed and soft on communism. And so he had to save the United States all by himself.
I'm going to save any comments till the whole hearing is.
President Reagan survived the scandal, claiming memory loss.
I'm having some trouble remembering that.
We did not, repeat, did not trade weapons or anything else for hostages, nor will we. My heart and my best intentions still tell me that's true, but the facts and the evidence tell me it is not.
But the episode sounded the death knell for the Contras. And a decade of strife had also taken its toll on the Sandinistas. The Nicaraguan people were exhausted from war, economic turmoil, and confrontation with each other and the United States. It was against this backdrop that Ortega made good on his promise to compete in free elections. he was voted out in favor of a broad alliance led by Violeta Chamorro.
So the results of that election were unexpected. We wanted to win, we expected to win, and it was very hard to assimilate the results and for them to really sink in. But we didn't think twice about accepting the results.
Gracious in defeat, the Sandinistas had proven even their fiercest critics wrong.
The day which the Sandinist front recognized that we have lost the elections and that Mrs. Chamorro had won the election, it was a great day for democracy in Nicaragua.
It had been 10 years since the Sandinista revolution, but as Daniel Ortega acknowledged defeat in the Plaza of the Revolution, he made a vow.
We're used to fighting from the bottom. We're used to fighting our torturers, our jailers. And now that there is a revolutionary people's power in Nicaragua, we are better positioned to very soon return to govern this country from the top.
Though reconciliation was one of Ortega's key electoral themes in 2006, for most Nicaraguans, the reconciliation process had taken years, as people have tried to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. These mountains were the front line of the war, the northern front, where most of the fiercest fighting took place. The Contras used to come here from over those hills, just across the border with Honduras, where they had their base camps. And when we would go into the villages around here, we would usually find people mourning their dead. Today, the same people who were fighting each other have learned to live together. People like Santos Cosme Martinez. He was wounded by shrapnel while fighting the Contras.
They were very cruel. If they found you, they would spear you with their bayonets. They'd cut your throat. They did what they wanted with the women. But you know, both sides sought revenge. Whatever you do, I'll do better. It was war.
But the 20 years that have passed have healed more than just his wounds. Now he laughs and talks about baseball with his neighbor, Victor Romero, a former Contra.
No, to kill one another isn't worth it. To run around killing each other is shameful. We're all humans after all.
The situation has changed. We are no longer enemies. We see each other as brothers of peace. We are all the same now.
The former fighters are united, not only in peace, but by poverty. Nicaragua has become the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere after Haiti. Half the population lives in acute poverty. 1 out of every 3 children suffers from chronic malnutrition.
The criticism from those of us on the left is that despite Ortega's anti-imperialist and anti-capitalist rhetoric, his administration is absolutely free market, exactly the same as previous conservative governments.
Yet Ortega still calls himself a revolutionary. He likes to be seen alongside Latin America's leftist leaders. He has renewed relations with Moscow and initiated ties with Iran. But perhaps significantly, pink is now his favorite color, as chosen by his wife Rosario for all official advertisements, to show that the Sandinistas are no longer red.
Former Contras and former Sandinistas coexist and live in peace in this nation today.